So when you have a tennis ball or something similar, in our yoga teacher training program, one of our students used a potato the other day. You can also use something like a golf ball is a little firm, but that would work. Sometimes dryer balls, those can work too. You might have that handy. And then for today's practice, we'll start seated in a comfy place on the mat. Maybe taking a little shift side to side as you settle in. And starting to notice your breath. And in today's class, we'll be focused on being present to what's happening right here, right now. September and autumn are often seasons that they say the vata dosha gets aggravated. And with all the wind we had here yesterday, all that wind, they say, can lead to us feeling more restless, more unsettled, and it can provoke some more anxious thoughts and things like that. So just pausing here to settle in, noticing your breath. And if you're nodding your head, thinking, yeah, I've had a lot of those anxious thoughts. As you notice your breath, you might also notice if you can anchor the hips down into the mat. I'm gonna let one more person in here. And if you're feeling sluggish and tired, instead, you might focus on lifting up from the crown of your head as you notice the breath. And then we'll take a little time just gently finding some movement for the spine that just feels natural. So don't worry about making sure it goes in cat or cow or side to side. Just explore, see if you can get a little curious here. Just explore moving your spine and see what feels good. Paul really talks about there's no illegal poses in yoga. Some are more effective than others, and some could be potentially risky. But there's no illegal pose. And so if you just kind of let your body be your guide here and just notice how it feels to move your spine. Maybe your spine does want to cat and cow, that's fine. Or maybe it's feeling like a little more of a half circle type thing. Just notice your back and what feels good for your back this morning. And after the spine's had a chance to move, we'll invite it to draw tall, lifting through the crown. And if it's possible, notice your hips anchoring you down. And see if you can lift from the crown at the same time. Let the shoulders inhale up by your ears. Exhale, slide the shoulders down like you were tucking them into your back pockets. And then we'll play with resting the hands on the lower ribs if that's comfy. If it's not comfy, it's okay to skip this. And when you find your exhale, imagine knitting the ribs toward each other and maybe even inviting them down toward the hip. And we won't release them back to actually move the ribs down that way. But we'll think of drawing them toward each other and then just inviting them to anchor down. What that does, it's another way to activate some of our deep core muscles. And it can be more supportive and really beneficial for our posture. So maybe your hands stay on the low ribs, maybe they're helping that idea of knitting the low ribs toward each other. Or maybe you see if you can keep that idea of drawing them in toward each other while releasing the hands down. Can you breathe when you do that? Now it's a different breath. Sometimes when we draw the belly button in, that Uddiyana Bandha, that really prevents the breath from going toward our belly. But this way, when the ribs are drawing toward each other and anchoring down, we might still be able to breathe toward the belly while we do that. So feel free to relax that at any point. And then we'll bring a little attention to the hands. If you have your tennis ball handy, you might roll your hand on the tennis ball on the mat. If that feels like too much pressure, you can roll it between the palms. That would be more gentle. And just notice how it feels to draw some little circles in, under where each finger meets your hand. Now check in with your back while you do this. See if your back is in a comfy spot. You might be able to stay upright while you do this. Or depending on the length of your arm, you might need to hinge forward a bit. Notice how you breathe. Sometimes releasing tension here can help us exhale a little longer, like a sigh, like Other times we hold our breath as we're exploring the different sensations. You might roll down the pinky edge of the hand like a karate chop, and then around by the thumb. If it's comfy, you might roll a little on the back of the hand. And maybe draw a couple circles around the wrist. And then when that hand feels like it's had enough, and again, if it's just feeling like, oh, now it feels good, stay with it. Remember, you can vary the pressure and add more if that feels good, or less if that feels best. And then when you're ready, when that hand has had enough attention, go ahead and pause and just notice the difference between your hands. You can even take a look at them and see if you see any differences. Sometimes one can really feel bigger than the other when we do this, as we wake up more of those nerve endings. So it can be reassuring to make sure you don't have one giant hand and a tiny hand. And then let's find side two. See about drawing some circles on the hand with side two. And just be kind again. This hand could be very different. This hand might only like very gentle pressure. Maybe it's helping the other hand here. We might be rolling from the wrist out toward the fingertips. Again, circling where each finger meets the hand. And again, if you have arthritis, you do want to be gentle, but it is okay to do this. It might help, especially if you're moving in a gentle way. It might help to free some things up. When we work with the fascia, there's some research that suggests it can increase our production of hyaluronic acid. That's that special stuff that pulls moisture to it. So that might be helpful to have good hydrated fascia around those joints. You might be karate chopping your tennis ball. You might be rolling in and around under the thumb. And maybe we're giving the wrist a little attention here too. Maybe the back of the hand, if you didn't roll in the back of the hand. I'm just trying to be curious about the hands, not worrying about if you drew the perfect shaped circle, if your circles are more like ovals. But just being curious about how the hand feels. When things feel like they've had enough attention on this side, go ahead and let the tennis ball rest off to the side and just notice the hands again. You might even take a look at them. Now, might invite you to just take a little mindful pause here. If your legs are crossed, you might switch the leg that's in the front. And as you notice your hands, just notice the little lines and creases in your hands. And you might notice if they're similar from one side to the other, or if one hand has more lines than the other. And as you notice your hands, you might notice your breath. And then when you're ready, no rush, no hurry, staying here if you've just discovered lots of curiosity about your hands. We'll start to bring some motion to the back. Now, start once again just by finding any movement that feels good for your back. Whether it's a circle, whether it's a shift, whatever feels good for your back. And then we'll draw the back in toward a gentle twist. And as you exhale, keep the spine tall, lifting through the crown. We'll find a little twist toward one side. And when we inhale, we'll come back to center. Exhale, we'll take that same twist toward side two, or staying on side one rather, round two of our twist. And we might explore just floating that front hand up. And today I'd invite you to try bringing it across to the opposite shoulder. Just noticing if that shoulder can stay down the back away from here. Inhale it back towards center. Keeping the spine tall. When you find the next exhale, one more twist to this side. Maybe using the hands to help keep the spine tall. Maybe that front hand comes up to check the back shoulder. If it's comfortable, maybe the back hand comes up to help invite the front shoulder to settle down and back from the ears. And you can rest the hands there on the shoulders, or go ahead and slide that front arm on top of the bottom arm for a little eagle arm shape here. You might just have back of the hands together. Or we might try a little wrap. Can you breathe? Now as you exhale, gently release the arms. Inhale it back to center. See if the spine needs any shifts, any movement. When you find the next exhale, let's try that twist on side two. Gentle twist, spine stays long. Inhale back to center. Exhale, gentle twist. Maybe that front arm floats and helps that back shoulder remember to roll back and down away from the ear. Inhale back to center. One more exhale, gentle twist. Maybe that front hand finds the back shoulder. And maybe that back hand comes around to find the front shoulder. Maybe the hands just stay here and remind the shoulders to settle back and down from the ears. Or maybe we start to slide that front arm, tucking that front elbow on top of the back elbow for a little variation on some eagle arms here. Again, be kind. We might just have the back of the hands together, or we might bring palms together. Breathing when you're here. Use an inhale to release the arms. And exhale to find center. And then see again if the back is asking for a little movement, a little shift, or swerve, or shrug. Then taking one more pause here. Noticing the breath. And just noticing how things feel in this moment. Then yogi's choice. We're moving toward cat-cow. If you'd rather stay seated, you can round and arch right here. Or we'll start to make our way toward all fours on the mat. And when we find all fours, Check in with the hands. Think about anchoring through those four corners of each hand. If you need to wake them back up, give them a quick little roll on the tennis ball if you like. And then when you exhale, round the back up for cats. Inhale, gentle arch for cat. And take your time here, no rush, no hurry. And you might notice where your attention goes in this flow. Do you notice the wrists? Do you notice your back? Is your mind thinking about the other things you have to do today? Just notice where your attention goes. And then when you're ready, when you've had enough cat-cow, yogi's choice, settle it back to child pose and just rest. Just let yourself be. Or if you're craving more motion, curl the toes under. We'll lift for a down dog. And we could hold there, pedaling and settling in. Or we can inhale to plank. Exhale, knees, chest, chin, or chaturanga. Inhale to cobra or up dog. Exhale, down dog. And take your time. There's time enough for 3 flows if you'd like them. Time to rest if that feels best. Or a great time to address any other needs that your body's requesting. Our bodies are full of wisdom. Sometimes it's just a matter of pausing or getting quiet enough to hear it. And when we can learn to listen to the body, sometimes we can prevent injuries and things getting aggravated further if we listen to our body when it says, oh, that doesn't feel so great. Maybe we should rest that today. Versus waiting until it yells at us. Don't do that at all. Then when you've finished your flow or your rest, we'll start to make our way back to meet. And yogi's choice here, we can work on all fours if that feels comfy. Or we might be working on the elbows if you're noticing your wrists are saying, nah, we're not really happy today. Both ways work, just choose where you're most comfy. And then in this shape, we'll check in with those ribs again. If it's comfy to rest a hand on the low ribs, you might even think about inviting them to knit toward each other, drawing those low ribs in toward each other, and anchoring them down toward your hips. And then when you have that engagement, you might explore sending one foot back. Can you keep that engagement? You might explore sending the other foot back. Laying a plank. You might plank on the knees. You might plank on the toes. Can we keep that engagement? Can we think of those ribs drawing into each other? And then we might think of our ribs pushing up in to meet the shoulder blades too. When you exhale, settle knees to the mat. Walk or shift the hips all the way back to the heels, find child pose. Soften here if it feels good. Or walk the hands up and over to one side and settle your hips away from your hands. Drawing length to the side body. Inhale back to center. Exhale toward side seat. And settle the hips away from the hands. Inhale back towards center. Maybe giving the forehead a little rock on the mat or on your hands. Releasing any tension in that eyebrow area. And then as you inhale, make your way back up toward all fours. We'll start to make our way toward downward facing dog. Now, as we prepare to lift here, I'd like you to play with those ribs again. So in cow pose, the ribs move away from the hips, or the front of the ribs move away from the front of the hips. Here in cow pose, with that arch in the mat, can you think of inviting those ribs toward each other? And then when you exhale, could you keep that invitation, ribs knitting together? As you exhale, shift and lift the hips. Downward facing dog. Pedal in, walking your way into the shape. Maybe walking the feet wide. Invite the biceps to spin forward. And then when you find an exhale, go ahead and settle knees to the mat. And as you inhale, shift or walk the hands out to find our puppy stretch. A deep breath here. The next inhale slides us forward. Yogi's choice. To keep practice gentle today, you can soften down to the belly and rest. Maybe bending the knees, rocking the heels side to side. Or if you'd like a little bit of oomph in your practice, a neat way to wake up some of the muscles that support good posture in our back and support a little upper body strength is to take the bottom part of a push-up and then a little variation on locust. So please rest if that's what you need today. Or try placing the hands wide. Take the shoulders away from the ears toward the hips. Knit the ribs together. Activating the core, maybe bringing in Mula Bandha. And see if you can press. Maybe you lift all the way, maybe you lift just an inch, bottom part of a push-up. Send it all the way back down. And then float the arms up, like cactus arms, making a W shape. Bring the hands down. As you exhale, press and lift. Inhale, nice and slow, bring it down. And then maybe we find a little cactus arms lift. Let's try that again. Ribs knit together, maybe Mula Bandha supports us as we press. We might not press all the way up, that might be a mini push. We float the elbows. Or we can also just push into the hands without actually lifting, taking a push and then a float. And if it feels pinchy or grumpy in the shoulders, skip it. Otherwise, we'll take one more of our floats and then soften it all down to the mat. You choose if it feels good to rock the heels or to walk and reach the toes back. So that little flow might have created a little bit of warmth in the shoulder. And then no rushing, no hurrying. When you're ready, we'll explore creating a little bit of warmth in the hips. So your head and the ribs can rest down here on the mat. See about bending one knee and then pressing and lifting that heel up. It's a little variation on frog pose, and we can take a little pulse here. That helps wake up the muscles in the back of the hip. And we can be gentle and do this just one leg at a time. Bending, trying to keep the knee about 90 degrees. And pressing and lifting the foot up. That might be plenty. Or if you're feeling like that's a piece of cake, you could do that all day. Bend the knees, both. Widen them apart, maybe mat width. Bring the heels together. And then press and lift the feet from here. Maybe the thighs lift. You should feel a little more engagement in the back of the hips. We can stay put here. Or we might bring the arms back out in a cactus shape and lift and lower arms and legs together. We can inhale as you rise. Exhale as you sink. Where's your attention now? Are you present in your body trying to figure out this funky shape? The variations in active frog, variation on our classic frog. Or is your attention in your mind? Thinking about it? When you're ready, you can soften it down. Maybe give the heels a little rock side to side. And then explore sending one leg long and letting the other ankle rock behind that leg. And then you can tip it away. Maybe noticing what kind of range of motion you have here. Excuse me. If there was a paintbrush on your toe, how big of an arc would you be painting here? And then when you're ready, we'll switch sides and let's be curious about side 2. Does side 2 move in a similar way? Or is side 2 a little more free? We have a broader range of motion. Maybe it's a little more limited one way. You just notice. And then bring both legs long. And you can take a moment here just to rest and reverse Shavasana to be gentle. You can also rock the hips a little side to side. It's kind of a funny thing to do, but that can help release some tension in the low back around the hips. You can even help the SI joints realign if that's an issue for you. And then if you'd like to rest, please do, or if you'd like a little bit more oomph, think of those low ribs again. Invite them toward each other when you exhale. Rest your head on your hands, and when you inhale, we'll lift the head and elbows up. Exhale it down. Can the ribs move toward each other when you find that lift? Exhale down. Inhale up, think of ribs drawing together. Exhale down. One more like this if you'd like it. Exhale down. And take one more rest on the belly, maybe a rock of the heels. And just a thought while you're here, if you have had a really busy mind, if you feel anxious or worried, resting on the belly can be very grounding. There's so much of the body in contact with the mat. And it's fine just to rest and be here. For when you're ready, we'll start to press our way up toward the elbows. And then find that tennis ball again. You might be rolling the tennis ball on the forearm. Now, if you're not comfy rolling the ball on the arm from your belly, it's okay to find any different shape. You might rock to a side. You can sit up if that feels better. Or if it's comfy, see about rolling, maybe turning the palm up and rolling the ball a long way. Or we can draw some circles here. Just exploring. Noticing how things feel at the pinky edge of the arm. And then it's a little trickier if you're on your belly to get the thumb edge of the arm, but just explore if you can wiggle things around. I'm focusing mostly on the forearm, but it's okay to circle under the wrist if that feels good, or revisit the hand. And then when it feels like that forearm's had enough attention, you can rest it down on the mat and just notice the difference between the arms. And then maybe we'll take a little pause here in a Sphinx before we go to side 2. Inviting the collarbones to lengthen. But could you think of those low ribs knitting toward each other? Now this is a weird shape to do that, but try it if you can. It's a nice way to support the low back in a back bend like cobra or Sphinx rather. And then when you exhale, go ahead and take a rest. Let things soften and sink down. And if the back is tired, feel free to bend knees and rock. And then we might get ready to explore side two. Again, feeling free to just rest if that feels best today. Or starting to walk elbows in under the shoulders. And now we'll find side two. Giving that arm a little attention on the tennis ball. And again, if it doesn't feel good for whatever reason, always okay to skip. If it doesn't feel good to make long rolls, maybe we make tiny little circles instead. That can be helpful. And just being kind to yourself. Maybe exploring the pinky edge of the arm. And trying to explore both the top and the bottom of the forearms. And you can help and move that tennis ball around as you need. If you find places that feel a little pinchy or electrical, maybe draw a circle around those. No rush or hurry. I have a client that when we work with this kind of tennis ball myofascial release, she says she feels like she's really cleaning out her arms. It's kind of like you'd go through your junk drawer and, organize and realign everything. I think that's a really interesting thought for this work. And then when you're ready, when that arm's had enough attention, go ahead and bring it back toward our Sphinx pose. And can we open the collarbones, take the shoulders toward the hips, the shoulder blades toward the hips. So could those low ribs move toward each other? Can you breathe when you're there? And then yogi's choice, bring it down to rest. Take a break. Press it up to a plank, keeping those low ribs drawing toward each other. Maybe it's a low plank. Maybe we lift. Breathing while you're here. Or if it's comfy on your shoulders, you might move toward dolphin, walking the hips up. Can you breathe? And then no rush, no hurry, take your time. We can move the hips back towards child pose, softening down. Maybe rocking the forehead. We might stay in child pose, or we might start to lift for our down dog. And there's time enough for 3 vinyasa flows if you would like them. Maybe noticing if you flow, how the forearms feel, or how your wrists feel as you go through those motions. Taking your time again, no rush, no hurry. Or as it is yogi's choice, if you're thinking, oh, I really want to work that arm a little more, go right ahead. Sometimes this work, listening to our body, can really let us know, like, oh, there's a place right there that needs attention. And listen to that if you can. And then when you finish that last flow or brought attention where you need to, we'll start to make our way to meet back on all fours. Preparing for our downward facing dog or dolphin pose, your choice, again, depending on how wrists feel. Toes curl in underneath. Spin the biceps forward. Keep the collarbones long, but can you pull those low ribs toward each other? As you exhale, shift and lift. Downward facing dog. Noticing again how the arms feel today. Pedaling in, taking a breath as you need it. And then your choice, we're headed to kneeling lunge. You can go back down to kneeling and slide a foot forward. Or from down dog, inhale the right heel up. Exhale, pull the knee toward the nose, stepping foot between the palms. As you inhale, floating your way up. Exhale, settle hands to the heart in Anjaneyasana. You can double up the mat under that back knee if you need to. Breathing when you're here. Maybe thinking again about those low ribs. Can the collarbones broaden? Will the low ribs knit in toward each other? Yogi's choice, stay put, or let's add a little more for the core. Walk that right foot over so it's in line with the back knee. And try knitting the ribs in our inline lunge, which is a good balance challenge. Should make things feel a little more wobbly. No rush, no hurry. Yogi's choice, we can stay put here, or we can add a little bit of an exploration. Taking an exhale, hinge and fold, frame the foot. The left hand, the left fingertips might stay down. We might try just taking the right arm to the thigh, or if it's comfy, we can reach it high for a little twist. We might float the back knee if it feels good. A deep breath here. Shoulders move toward the hips. Or exhale, frame the foot. And then as we slide back, let the left knee find the mat if it's not there already. Slide and press right heel back behind you. And then float the right knee down outside the left leg. Widen the heels apart and see about sinking the hips back toward the mat. This is a way that we can eventually get to cow face pose, maybe not today. Your choice if you're settling back, or sometimes the best stretch for the hips is here, with the hips lifted but reaching to settle down. If you do settle the hips to the mat, you might take a moment here to reach that right arm for the back of the neck. The left arm might swoop down and around for the cow face pose arms. And we can breathe here. Maybe thinking of those low ribs once again. We might be hinging and folding. Breathing into the shape. And then slowly walking the hands back toward the mat. Walking the weight forward toward the knees. Round through the palms, float the right heel up. Let's settle it down toward all fours. Ground through the hands. Spin the biceps forward, toes tuck in underneath. Exhale, downward facing dog. Yogi's choice if you want to move to kneeling lunge from here. We'll float the left heel, or we can bring that right knee down and slide the left foot, left knee up instead. Both ways work. Right knee finds the mat. When you're ready, we'll take an inhale to lift. Finding kneeling lunge, Anjaneyasana. Exhale, hands to heart. Pause and breathe. Taking a moment. We want to think of drawing that front heel toward the back knee toward the front heel. We can stay put here, or toe heel that front foot over in line with the back knee. An inline lunge can get a lot more wobbly. We might stay put, or we might be thinking of those low ribs knitting in. And can you breathe while you do that? If you're familiar with Mula Bandha, The root block, you can think of the pelvic floor drawing in and up to support you here too. And then when you're ready, we'll start to fold, framing the foot. The right hand or the right fingertips will stay down. Maybe the left hand comes to the left thigh and we find a little gentle twist. Maybe skipping it if it doesn't feel right. Maybe the hand floats. Maybe we float the back knee. Sending shoulders toward the hips. As you exhale, fold it down. Settle the right knee to the mat if it was lifted. We'll slide and press the left heel back behind us. And then exhale, tuck the knee down outside the right. You can widen the heels apart if it feels good. We can start to settle the hips back, maybe just resting here, or maybe finding our way toward cow face pose on side two, which could feel different. You can adjust the position of the feet if you need. We can simply sit tall, focus on the hips. Or we might take that left hand now, reaching toward the back of the neck. The right hand can scoop up and under, inviting the hands toward each other. We can stay put tall, or we can hinge from the hip, finding a little fold. And there's a lot to notice here. So just check in with what your attention does. Does it settle on the most vulnerable feeling part, like a shoulder or a hip? And does it stay with your breath? Or is it focused on, come on, Sam, bring us out of this pose now. Just notice where your attention goes. And then when you're ready, release the hands if they were behind the back. Invite them toward the mat. We'll walk the hands forward. And then floating that left heel up, settle back to all fours. Yogi's twist. Time to rest, child pose if that feels best. Time to lift and flow. Down dog in our vinyasa flow. Time for another pose if your body was craving one today. Or again, maybe make use of that tennis ball if there's something that feels like could use a little extra attention. Check in with your breath, whether you're resting or flowing. And just notice what it's like to be here now. You might even notice if there's any other sounds in your environment. Here at the library, I can hear the crickets. Maybe noticing anything like that. And then when you're ready, let's meet back in child pose on the mat. Taking a moment to soften there. As you find an inhale, gently making your way up toward a seated shape. We'll be making our way down toward the back soon. But I'd like to offer you a couple options with the tennis ball to bring some attention toward the lower body now too. So you might choose to focus on the feet. You can use a hand, or you can roll the foot on the tennis ball on the floor. If you're doing this and you're thinking, man, I really wanted her to say calves or hips or something else, listen to your body's wisdom and go there. You can roll easily on the calf. You can tuck a tennis ball in under a hip. Wherever your body's asking. The only places we try not to put direct pressure are bones. So like you wouldn't go directly under the spine and put all of your body weight on that spot. Or under the hip. If we're on the sits bone, we want to try to work the muscles around there versus just pushing on that bone. But you get to pick. If the feet are just what you need, stay with the feet. But feel free to explore other places too if that's what your body's requesting. And I'd invite you, whether you're working with feet or hips or somewhere else, can you be curious? Really taking a little pause to listen to the sensations that your body sends you. And if you were trying to describe the sensation of how that feels right now, what words would you use to describe that feeling? And if you are working with feet, again, take the time to roll under both pinky toe side and big toe side of the foot, which sometimes turns into a little personal soccer game. And if you haven't switched feet or switched sides already, you might take a moment to do that now. Just noticing, sometimes we find places that feel sore or tender. You might even pause and just breathe there. Or we might draw a circle around that place. It might be a good thing to drink a little extra water today too, when we do this kind of work that can affect our fascia, our connective tissue. We want to stay hydrated to really help keep that fascia its healthiest. Your fascia is one of the first places your body pulls water from when you get a little dehydrated. So taking time again, if you're working with a foot, to go under the pinky edge of the foot, the big toe side. No rush, no hurry. When you're ready, when that foot's had enough attention, just take a little pause. Maybe bringing the feet to the mat, maybe the hands back, and just noticing how things feel. And then your choice. We're moving toward a restorative shape. So if there's one you have in mind today, you're welcome to go there now. Or what I might recommend, if you have a wall or a chair handy, is a variation here of legs up the wall. So please feel free to rest the legs on an actual wall. Or if you don't have a lot of wall space, but you do have a chair or a couch, we can rest the calves and the heels in the chair. Or if they're resting up the wall, the legs might be long. Both ways work. If it's comfortable for the arms, try turning the palms up and making that cactus shape. And notice when you get there, things feel like they can just soften and sink and settle down. If you get there and something says, no, I need more motion, maybe it's bending the knees and taking a little rock. Maybe it's reaching the arms out. I need any motion, any shape that you need here. And then when you find your comfy shape for restorative, start to notice your breath. And notice if your exhales can help you sink and soften into the shape. You might even try the 4-7-8 breath here if it feels like it's tricky to get things to relax. The 4-7-8 breath, it's a Vishama Vritti, or an uneven wave breath. And it's an inhale of 4, and then we pause for 7, and then we exhale through the mouth, trying to make a sound for 8. So you're welcome just to rest here. Or if you'd like to try that breath, I'll walk you through 2 rounds of it, and then you could keep it going on your own if you like. If you'd like to try the breath, start with just a normal breath in through the nose. We'll sigh it out through the mouth. Then inhale through the nose for 1, 2, 3, 4. Pause 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale 1, 2, 3, 4. Pause 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You might keep going at your own pace if you like, or you can let the breath return to normal. And the 4, 7, 8 breath helps calm the nervous system. And it can be a help if you have trouble falling asleep at night. You might try a few rounds of that breath, or it's useful in stressful situations too. You can stay put here if you love your constructive rest pose or your restorative shape. Just stay put if you'd like. Or if you'd like a classic shape for Shavasana, you're welcome to start to draw the knees in at any time. You might be sliding your props to the side. And if you're in a space that's cool, maybe you're finding a blanket or something else to help you stay the most comfortable for final relaxation. The palms might turn up if that's comfy. But it's always okay to have knees bent or hands resting wherever they feel best. And giving yourself permission to just let the body rest for these last few minutes of class. Soaking in all the benefits from today's practice. And maybe taking this opportunity to just be right here, right now. If you're able to take a long Shavasana today, feel free to stay put here. When you're ready, you might start to wiggle the fingers and the toes. See about bending the knees or stretching the arms. And finding any rock or motion that feels natural and helpful. Maybe bringing the body to rest on one side or the other. Inhale, starting to press your way up towards seated. No rush, no hurry. And when you get there again, like we started class today, see what motion feels natural, helpful, balancing for the back. When you find a spot with a tall spine, use an inhale, sweep the fingertips up tall. Exhale, settle hands toward the heart. Thank you so much for taking the time to practice today. It's a pleasure to practice with you. And namaste.